When he finished, he left me on the ground bleeding, whispering, "If you tell anyone, no one will believe you. You are just another foreign woman."
The testimonies featured on this channel are presented as received, reflecting the personal experience and perspectives of the individuals who have generously shared them with us. We encourage our viewers to approach these testimonies with compassion and understanding, as these are personal testimonies of people involved. We also encourage you to always refer to the Holy Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ and His apostles for guidance. You can consider subscribing to the channel to support our ministry. Like, share, and comment with the country you are watching from. Watch to the end, because what you are about to hear will challenge your belief.
The night was heavy with silence. A soft desert wind swept across the dusty plains of rural Afghanistan, whistling through the cracks of broken homes and fading memories. The stars hung over the sky like silent witnesses, watching a story few dared to tell. This was not just another tale of faith or pilgrimage. It was a journey into the deepest shadows of belief, betrayal, and survival. Her name was Nadia, a 40-year-old Afghan woman who once held on to Islam with the innocence of a child. She grew up in a small, conservative village near Herat, where religion was not just faith, it was identity, law, and life itself. Her father was an imam, her brothers were strict, and her mother's eyes always carried the quiet submission of a woman who knew her voice could cost her everything. For years, Nadia's dream was simple: to perform the Hajj, to touch the Kaaba with her own hands, to walk the same ground where the Prophet once walked. It was her lifelong desire, one she saved for decades to fulfill. When the day finally came, she sold her late husband's land, borrowed money, and joined a small group of Afghan pilgrims heading to Saudi Arabia. She thought it would be the most sacred journey of her life, but she had no idea that it would break her faith forever. What she saw in that holy land was not what she had been taught in her childhood mosque. Beneath the glamour of white robes and the chants of Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik lay something darker, an untold reality the world refused to see. It was a story that would shake her soul and drive her to the edge of madness. Tonight, we revisit the haunting journey of a woman who walked through Mecca in search of Allah, but found something else entirely, something that changed her life, her faith, and her destiny. Let's hear from Nadia.
My name is Nadia Rahimi. I was born in a small, dusty village outside Herat. I grew up believing Islam was the purest truth. My father would wake us for Fajr prayer before dawn, and my mother taught me to cover my head, even while fetching water. We had nothing, but faith was everything. For years, I dreamed of going to Hajj. Every time I saw pilgrims return from Mecca, I imagined myself among them, dressed in white, my sins washed away, my heart clean before Allah. I promised myself that before I died, I would see the Kaaba. In 2023, I finally made it. I joined a group of 40 Afghan pilgrims under a local travel agent. The day we arrived in Jeddah, my heart was trembling. Everywhere I looked, there were Muslims from every part of the world, black, white, Arab, Asian, all crying, all praying. It felt holy, but soon that feeling began to fade. It started with small things. The women's section at our accommodation was overcrowded. The Saudi officials shouted at us like animals. We were told to stay quiet and not complain. "You are guests of Allah," they said. "Be humble." But their humility was one-sided. One evening, as I stood near the Kaaba, I saw a woman faint from exhaustion. The guards pushed her body aside with their sticks so others could continue circling. No one stopped. No one helped. She lay there, trembling, until some Indonesian women lifted her. My heart cracked. I thought, how can this be a place of mercy when we treat each other like dirt? Then one night, something happened that still makes me shiver. I was returning from the haram after the midnight prayer. I had gotten separated from my group. A man in a white thob approached me. He spoke Dari mixed with Arabic, saying he could help me find my group. I followed, trusting him. After all, this was Mecca. Who would harm anyone here? He led me through a narrow alley behind a hotel near the clock tower. The path grew darker. Suddenly, he turned and covered my mouth. I couldn't scream. I struggled, but he was strong. He whispered in Arabic, "You women come here thinking you are pure, but you are all the same." He dragged me into a corner and forced himself on me. I felt the life leave my body. I could hear the adhan echoing from the mosque, but it sounded far away, like a cruel reminder that even in the city of God, evil walks freely. When he finished, he left me on the ground, bleeding, whispering, "If you tell anyone, no one will believe you. You are just another foreign woman." I stayed there for hours, shaking. When I returned to my group, no one asked why I was missing. They were too focused on the rituals. I tried to pray, but my lips couldn't form the words. I stared at the Kaaba, asking, "Why, Allah? Why here?" Days passed. The pain turned into anger. I began to notice more things. At night, Saudi men would walk among the women pilgrims, pretending to offer help, but I saw their eyes. I saw the way they looked. One Indonesian woman whispered to me that her friend had also been taken. "Don't speak," she said. "They will deport you." When I tried to report it to a Saudi officer, he looked at me coldly and said, "You must have tempted him. Cover better." I was wearing full hijab. That night, something broke inside me. I walked outside the Masjid al-Haram and sat alone near the Zamzam area. The lights were so bright, it hurt my eyes. I saw thousands of people praying, crying, touching the black stone, and suddenly it all felt empty. I remembered how the man who hurt me also wore white, also prayed. I remembered how the guards ignored the weak. I thought of my mother telling me that Mecca is pure, but what I saw was not purity, it was hidden filth behind golden gates. When I returned home to Afghanistan, I tried to tell people what happened. My village elders called me a liar. They said, "You want to shame Islam?" My brother slapped me in front of everyone. My father said I was possessed. Even my closest friends said, "Maybe it was your test." Test? Is rape a test? Is humiliation part of pilgrimage? One night, my house was set on fire. I escaped through the back with only the clothes I wore. The message was clear. I was no longer one of them. I wandered for days, sleeping in abandoned buildings. I thought of ending my life, but one afternoon, a kind woman found me crying near the marketplace. She gave me food and took me to her home. She wasn't Muslim. She said she was a Christian aid worker. When she prayed, I felt something strange. Peace. No Arabic chants, no fear, just quiet peace. She said, "Nadia, you are loved by God. He sees your pain." I laughed at first. "Where was he in Mecca?" I asked. She smiled gently and said, "Maybe he was waiting for you to stop looking for him in stones." That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing in my head.
The days after my escape from my village were a blur of fear and confusion. I was alone, hated by my own people, and haunted by memories that would not fade. I couldn't sleep without hearing that man's voice whispering in Arabic, mocking me. I would wake up sweating, clutching my scarf, afraid someone was coming to finish what he started. The Christian woman who helped me, her name was Grace, kept visiting me where I hid. She brought food, clothes, and something strange, a small book with a cross on it, the Bible. At first, I didn't want to touch it. In my mind, it was haram, forbidden. I still had that fear drilled deep inside me that if I read anything outside Islam, Allah would curse me. But one night, as the rain poured and I sat alone, I opened the book. I remember the first line I read. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Something inside me cracked open. I whispered those words again and again. For the first time since Mecca, I felt seen. I felt understood. The next day, Grace told me more about Jesus, not the Isa I knew in Islam, a prophet who served Allah, but someone entirely different. She said he was the Son of God who came to heal the broken and save the lost. I wanted to believe her, but fear held me back. I asked her, "How can God have a son?" She smiled softly and said, "He doesn't have a son the way humans do, Nadia. He came as love itself to show you his heart." That night, I cried, not from sadness, but from something I couldn't name. I looked up at the sky and whispered, "If you are real, Jesus, if you are really God, then show me." The following morning, I had a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I saw myself back in Mecca, standing before the Kaaba, but this time it wasn't black. It was burning. The gold cloth turned to ash, and the stones melted into dust. I screamed, and then through the smoke, I saw a man in white walking toward me. His face shone so bright, I couldn't see his features, but his presence was peace itself. He said softly, "Nadia, I was there when you cried. I saw what they did. Come to me." When I woke up, my heart was pounding. I felt something new, like a gentle fire inside. I couldn't explain it. I ran to Grace and told her everything. She smiled through tears and said, "He's calling you." But my nightmare was not over yet. News spread that I had been staying with foreigners. Men from my village came looking for me. They accused Grace of converting me. One night, as we prayed, someone threw a rock through the window with a note tied to it. It said, "Leave or die." We left that same night. Grace took me to a small house in another province where other Afghan women stayed, ex-Muslims, refugees in their own country. I met 3 women there: Fatima, who was beaten after she refused to marry an old mullah; Shireen, who was raped by her cousin and silenced; and Layla, whose family tried to kill her when she started reading the Bible. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. We were all women who had been crushed under the same faith, all hiding from the same wrath. Every night we prayed together in whispers, with candles and trembling hands. I still remember that feeling, the sound of their quiet sobs mixing with the flame's soft crackle. It was sacred. Then one evening, while Grace was away, soldiers came. Someone had betrayed us. They stormed in shouting, accusing us of apostasy. They dragged Layla outside and beat her. I could hear her scream. I hid under the floorboards, covering my mouth to stop myself from crying out. When they left, Layla was gone. We never saw her again. I wanted to run, but Grace came and told me, "Nadia, your story must be told. You can't stay silent forever." But the thought of speaking terrified me. Every time I thought about what happened in Saudi Arabia, the men, the hypocrisy, the silence of millions who claimed purity while covering wickedness, I wanted to vomit. Still, something in me knew she was right. The truth had to be told, even if no one believed it. So we fled across the border into Pakistan, disguised as widows. The journey was brutal. The mountains were cold, the roads full of danger. Twice, men tried to stop us at checkpoints. Grace gave them money, pretending we were on pilgrimage to Iran. When we finally reached safety, I looked back at the Afghan border and felt a strange calm. That was the night I decided I would never bow my head to fear again. In Pakistan, I met a small group of underground Christians, Arabs, Iranians, and Afghans who had all left Islam. Their eyes carried the same sadness mine did, but their smiles were real. They welcomed me like family. During one of our secret gatherings, a man preached about forgiveness. When he said, "Even those who hurt you can be forgiven," I broke down. I couldn't imagine forgiving the man who violated me, or the men who burned my home. But that night, as we prayed, I saw that man's face in my mind, and then I saw Jesus's face over his, and a voice said, "Let me heal what they broke." I cried until my throat hurt. Then I whispered, "I forgive him." And something lifted from me. The fear, the hate, it began to fade. That was the night I gave my life to Christ. We were in a dim room, the air heavy with incense and tears. I remember kneeling, trembling, and saying, "Jesus, if you are Lord, take me. I have nothing left but you." And I felt it, the peace I had been searching for in Mecca, the love that no man or ritual ever gave me. It was real. It was alive. Grace hugged me and said, "Welcome home." But my story didn't end there. My conversion spread faster than I could hide. Someone in the group betrayed us to local authorities. They began to hunt for us. One night, while crossing to another safe house, we were stopped again. They demanded our papers. Grace whispered, "Don't speak." I looked out the window and saw 3 men approaching with guns. My heart froze. I thought, this is it. They found me. One of them leaned into the window and said, "You are Nadia Rahimi." I nodded slowly. He smiled, a cold, wicked smile. "You have shamed your people." He raised his gun.
The night air was freezing against my face as the man pointed the gun at me. My breath caught in my throat. I thought my story was ending there, in that dusty checkpoint under a dying streetlight. But before he could pull the trigger, a blinding light filled the road. Headlights. A truck came speeding toward us, honking violently. The soldiers turned their attention for just a second, long enough for Grace to grab my arm. "Run!" she shouted. We ran into the dark, through the hills, stumbling over rocks, hearts pounding like drums. I could hear bullets echoing behind us, men yelling, dogs barking. Every step felt like my last. We ran until my legs gave way and I collapsed behind an abandoned wall. Grace fell beside me, gasping, clutching her side. "We can't stop," she whispered, but I couldn't move. My whole body was shaking uncontrollably. "I can't," I said. "I can't anymore." She took my face in her hands and said something I'll never forget. "Nadia, fear is what they want you to worship. Don't give it to them. You already belong to someone greater." Her words hit deep. In that darkness, something stirred inside me, a quiet strength. We crawled through the brush until we found a narrow cave where we hid until sunrise. The next morning, Grace was burning with fever. She had been hit. One of the bullets grazed her shoulder. I tore a part of my scarf and wrapped the wound, whispering prayers, this time not to Allah, but to Jesus. After 2 days, a group of Christian aid workers found us. They took us to a safe compound near Islamabad. Grace survived, but she was weak. She told me I had to keep telling my story, no matter the danger. "The truth is light, and darkness can't stand it," she said. In the following weeks, I started recording my story, everything that happened in Saudi Arabia, in my village, and on our escape. It wasn't for fame or pity. It was to expose the silence. I wanted the world to know that beneath the white robes and golden moss, there was blood, abuse, and fear. I wanted them to know that not every woman who returns from Hajj comes home healed. Some come home broken, silenced, or dead. But when I sent my recordings online through an underground Christian contact, the threats multiplied. Anonymous messages flooded in. "We will find you. You are cursed. You have betrayed Allah." One night our compound was raided. We escaped again.
this time with help from a British missionary group who smuggled us across the border into Turkey. Grace stayed behind, too weak to travel. The last words she said to me were, "Don't stop speaking, Nadia. Even if they silence me, let the truth roar through you." I wept as they separated us. I never saw her again. In Turkey, I found refuge with other ex-Muslim women from Iran, Syria, and Somalia. Each carried a story like mine, different faces, same pain. We were women discarded by our people, branded as traitors for daring to seek love instead of fear. But together, we became family. We worshipped in secret basements, always listening for footsteps, always ready to run. Yet in those hidden rooms, I felt the purest faith I'd ever known. There were no grand mosques, no loud sermons, just whispers of hope, tears, and songs. Sometimes I would wake at night trembling from nightmares, seeing the man in Mecca again or hearing the screams of Lila. But each time, I'd pray, and peace would slowly cover me, like a blanket. Months passed. One evening as we prayed, a Turkish pastor handed me a small silver cross necklace. He said, "You have carried pain, but now you carry testimony." I held it close, trembling. For the first time, I felt proud, not of what I survived, but of who I had become. Then one night, I got a call from an Afghan contact. Grace had died. The soldiers found her, tortured her, and left her body on a road outside Kabul. My heart shattered. I wanted to give up. I told God I can't keep going. That night, I wept harder than I ever had before. But in my grief, I heard that same gentle voice I heard in my dream in Mecca. "Nadia, she finished her race. Now run yours." I wiped my tears and whispered, "I will." So I began speaking publicly, first in small online meetings, then in documentaries for ex-Muslim ministries. I told everything, how I was violated in the holiest city, how my people cast me out, how I found truth not in rituals but in a Savior who met me in my brokenness. The backlash was brutal. My name spread across Muslim forums. Some called me a liar, others called for my death. But I didn't care anymore because for the first time in my life, I was free. Free from fear, free from control, free from pretending that I was okay when I wasn't. Today, I live in a small apartment in Greece under asylum protection. I still cover my head, not because I have to, but because I choose to. Sometimes when I walk near the sea, I think of that woman I used to be, the one who went to Mecca believing she'd find Allah, only to find the cruelty of men. I think of that alleyway where I lost everything, and how from that same moment of horror, God began writing a new chapter. Now I tell my story to give hope to women like me, those still trapped in silence, those too afraid to speak. I tell them, you are not alone. You are seen. You are loved, and your pain is not the end. There are still nights I wake in tears. There are still days when fear whispers that I will be found. But when it comes, I remember Grace's voice, and I remember that light in Mecca, the man in white who said, "I saw what they did." And I whisper back, "I know you did." That's how I live now, not as a victim, but as a voice. My name is Nadia Rahimi. I went to Hajj to find God. I found him, but not in Mecca. I found him in my pain, in my tears, and in the love of a man who died for me long before I ever knew his name. And that's the truth no one in Saudi Arabia wants to hear, but the world will.